Hello, my name is Isabella Gross. I am the Lead for Cities Equity Fellow, and I'm going to take you through the quality of life category in our rating system today. This category is comprised of 2 prerequisites and 7 credits. A total of 20 points can be earned in this category. So let's get right into it. So starting with the prerequisites, the first prerequisite, demographic and social equity assessment, aims to reveal potential disparities among socio-cultural groups or neighborhoods. The assessment requires a city to address demographic and socioeconomic characteristics, a history of housing and neighborhood development, and the distribution of social infrastructure, assets, and services. The second prerequisite, quality of life performance, asks to go one step further and measure all of the quality of life parameters listed in the guide regarding education, equitability, prosperity, and health and safety. A minimum ARC score of 40 is required, and with any score above that, you will earn up to 6 points. ARC scores are based on performance relative to peers. Moving on to the credits, the first credit, social services and infrastructure, encourages the jurisdictions to provide facilities and services to residents that help meet their social needs, maximize their potential for human development, and enhance community well-being. Up to 3 points can be earned in this credit through 4 options. Option 1 requires local governments to conduct a community needs assessment at the neighborhood level to identify priority social service and infrastructure needs with a focus on the city's vulnerable populations. You must also demonstrate that your jurisdiction has used the results of the assessment to better serve its community through the implementation of a policy, program, or practice. The second option asks local governments to demonstrate that at least 4 social infrastructure assets or services are as accessible to 2 or more neighborhoods with the highest percentage of low-income residents and people of color compared to the city as a whole. Data from the demographic and social equity assessment prerequisite can also help identify social infrastructure assets and services. The third option focuses on community cohesion and asks that local governments meet any one of the listed requirements that fall within this category. One example is to demonstrate that at least 80% of residents live within 1 mile of a community venue that is open to the public and offers free services and/or events for residents. Local surveys may also be used to determine community cohesion and must be conducted within 5 years of the certification date. The fourth and final option asks that local governments meet a list of 3 requirements related to public engagement. One of these requirements is ensuring that appointments to local advisory boards and commissions reflect the gender, racial, and ethnic diversity of the city. The second credit, economic growth and opportunity, focuses on promoting inclusion and equity. Once again, 3 points are available and can be earned through 4 options. The first option, income distribution, requires that the median earnings of workers when broken down by gender and top 3 racial ethnic groups are within 5 percentage points of the overall median earnings value. The second option, workforce readiness, requires that the post-secondary educational attainment of the population aged 25 and older, when broken down by gender and top 3 racial ethnic groups, is within 5 percentage points of the overall post-secondary educational attainment. The third option, equitable employment, requires that the unemployment rate, when broken down by gender and top 3 racial ethnic groups, is within 5 percentage points of the overall unemployment rate. Finally, the fourth option, strategies to strengthen economic prosperity, requires local governments to adopt 3 strategies from a list laid out in the guide. One of these strategies is to provide job training and assistance programs tailored to the needs of the local workforce and small businesses. The third credit, environmental justice, intends to ensure equitable protection from environmental pollution to all residents in a jurisdiction. 1 point is available in this credit and can be earned through 2 options. The first option, reducing environmental justice risks and exposure, requires local governments to identify priority environmental justice concerns and priority areas for evaluation. The city must then demonstrate a reduction in risks and exposure to the environmental injustice for priority areas in the past 5 years of certification. The second option, strategies to reduce environmental justice, risk, and vulnerability, asks local governments to meet any three of the requirements listed in the guide. One example of these requirements is to create an environmental justice collaborative group and integrate it into governmental planning and decision-making processes. The fourth credit, housing and transportation affordability, encourages an adequate and diverse supply of location-efficient and affordable housing options. 2 points are available and can be earned through 4 options in this credit. The first option, comprehensive housing policy, requires local governments to conduct a housing needs assessment addressing housing supply, affordability, diversity of housing stock by unit and ownership type, community demographics, fair housing practices, and displacement risk assessment for new projects as applicable. In addition, the local government must adopt a comprehensive housing policy that addresses at least 3 of the 6 elements listed in the guide. Option 2, housing and transportation costs, asks cities to demonstrate that at least 60% of households spend less than 45% of their median income on housing and transportation combined. Option 3, affordable housing production, requires that local governments demonstrate that new affordable housing units are being produced at an annual rate of 5% or at the targeted rate by the local government or the development authority, whichever is more stringent. Finally, option 4, affordable rental housing preservation, requires cities to demonstrate that the number of subsidized affordable housing units is equal to or greater than the number from a baseline year no more than 5 years prior to the most recent reporting year. All 4 options are worth 1 point each. The fifth credit, public health, encourages promoting positive public health outcomes and reducing health risk factors. Up to 3 points can be earned in this credit through 4 options. Option 1, public health metrics, asks local governments to select any 3 or 6 metrics from a list of categories laid out in the guide and demonstrate an improving trend from a baseline year. Selecting 3 metrics earns 1 point, and selecting 6 metrics can earn you 2 points. The categories containing these metrics are health outcomes, mortality measures, health risk factors, and access to healthcare. Option 2, policies for better public health, asks local governments to demonstrate the adoption of any 2 policies and programs listed in the guide to improve public health. One policy example from the list is adopting a healthy public food procurement policy, which includes all food procured by the city and served at the city-run institutions and events. Option 3, protect air quality, asks cities to demonstrate a 10% reduction in the annual number of days on which the air quality index exceeds 100 from a baseline year no more than 5 years prior to the most recent reporting year. In addition, cities must demonstrate compliance with 2 of the listed air quality related requirements listed in the guide. Option 4, protect noise quality, requires that daytime ambient noise levels do not exceed 55 decibels A in residential areas. In addition, local governments must adopt a community noise policy, ordinance, or regulation including any 2 of the requirements listed in the guide. The sixth credit, educational opportunity and attainment, encourages an equitable distribution of resources. 1 point is available and can be earned through 3 options. Option 1, reading proficiency, requires that at least 85% of 3rd grade public school students meet reading proficiency standards when broken down by racial, ethnic groups, gender, and low-income categories. Option 2, graduation rate, requires a 90% average 4-year adjusted cohort high school graduation rate for all students in all public schools when broken down by racial, ethnic groups, gender, and low-income categories. And option 3, assistance and support programs, requires local governments to meet any 3 of the strategies listed in the guide. One example strategy is providing no-cost full-day kindergarten for low and moderate income students. The 7th and final credit, civil and human rights, centers these rights as fundamental to all people. 1 point is available, and all 4 listed requirements in the guide must be met to earn the points. The requirements are generally about erasing employment, housing, and public accommodation discrimination, ensuring and protecting voting rights, appointing leadership roles related to human rights, and implementing DEI policies in city governance. That is all for the quality of life category. Thanks for listening, and I hope this was helpful. If you want to learn more, please feel free to reach out to cities@usgbc.org.